Shabbat Shalom. Can you turn me up a little bit? Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
And welcome to Adith Emanuel here in Mount Laurel. On this second Friday of the month, we have a lot going on at our service tonight. If you would kindly find your seats. We welcome you, whether you're here in person in the sanctuary, or if you're joining us through the blessing of technology, and if you are joining us remotely, we invite you to say Shabbat Shalom in the chat and share with us where it is you're joining us tonight. On this second Friday, we will be reading Torah, as is our custom, and we have a couple of other milestones. This particular Shabbat marks the 10th anniversary yahrzeit of our founding Rabbi Richard Levine, and so his family will be participating in some parts of the service a little later on. And some of you know that I recently returned from Israel, traveling there on a solidarity mission with a group from the Southern New Jersey Federation. And so I'll be sharing tonight some of my trip with you, but there'll be other times to hear about my travels as well. And it's Shabbat. Some of us are here because it's Shabbat, and we've come to be with our congregation and worship and sing and pray with one another. We turn now in our Siddur to our opening song, which is L'chune Ranana, and I'm just looking for the page. It's page L'chune Ranana.
I'm going to say it's 120, 130.
130, page
130.
130, and the numbers that we share aloud are the blue ones in the brackets, L'chune Ranana.
So before we begin, this is the L'chune Ranana that was written by Rabbi Richard Levine. So some of you may know it. If you've been here as long as I have, some of you may know it. Some of you may not. So I'm just going to start with a little back and forth so you can learn it in case you don't know it. May I have a D? L'chune ranina l'Adonai. Let's try that. L'chune ranina l'Adonai. Naria, naria. Try that much. Naria, naria. Litzori sheinu. Litzori sheinu. Now we're going to do the L'chune Ranana, and we're going to go stepping down. L'chune ranina, l'chune ranina. Try that. L'chune ranina, l'chune ranina, l'chune ranina l'Adonai. L'chune ranina l'Adonai. L'chune ranina
We turn now in our Siddur to pages 120 and 121 for the lighting and blessing of our Shabbat candles. And it's my pleasure to invite members of the Levine family to come to the bima to lead us in our lighting and blessing.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
And we turn now in our Siddur to page 123, as we continue with Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kadsho v'yahava u'ratzon v'gilanu, zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit. Kihu yom tefillah l'mikrai kodesh, zecher l'tziyah Mizrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, b'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, b'shabbat kadshecha, v'yahava u'ratzon, in Haltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Hashabbat. Amen.
Chaim. Thank you for accommodating us. I'm supposed to go that way. Oopsie. As we turn now in our Siddur to page 138, we welcome in Shabbat with L'chadodi.
Shabbat
face the entrance to the sanctuary.
Oi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha v'salah, toch emuni am segula, boi kala, lekal dodi, lekal kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lekal dodi, lekal kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
And while we're standing, we take a moment to welcome one another as we've just welcomed in Shabbat, and perhaps not turn to the person next to us, whom we may already know, but somebody in front of us, behind us. Introduce ourselves to one another and greet one another Shabbat Shalom. And if you're joining us through the blessing of technology, say hello to one another and share where it is you're joining us this evening. Shabbat Shalom. And these are conversations we can continue with one another at our Oneg Shabbat following our services. As we turn now to page 146, page 146, Baruch Hu.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
On page 150, as we read together, everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
May be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On page 157. Together at the top, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. As we turn to page 164 for tefillah, we rise in body and spirit as we're able.
Adonai sifatai tivtachu fia ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el hagdol hagibor v'hanara, El Elyon gomel chasadim tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסרות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח מוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בלי שני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, kol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kedoshim b'chol yom yalu kasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
May be seated. As we continue together at the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. As we continue with Shalom Rav on page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Ki hu tohu mecharon, lekol hashalom. Ki hu tohu mecharon, lekol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha livarech et amcha Yisrael, bechol עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam, tasim
We continue our prayer now silently, whether we reflect on the words on the pages of our Siddur through page 181, or perhaps look at other prayers throughout the prayer book, or reflect on those meditations and thoughts in our hearts. We turn now in our service to Seder Kriyat Torah, and so we turn in our prayer book to page 364. 364. As we are able, we rise in body and spirit. Our Torah reading for this Shabbat is called Vayakel. It's about bringing together the Kehillah, the congregation, and the part that Robin is going to be reciting this Shabbat is from chapter 36, verse 4 and following. What's really nice about her verses that she's reading is this is the only time I think this has ever happened in Jewish history where people were bringing so much tzedakah, they said, stop bringing. It's yet to happen that I've heard about. One never knows. So if you want to follow along in the Torah commentary, it's on page 670, 670. And we call for the Aliyah. Rachel. Na la'amod Ravi Talchana bat Rachel v'David levarech al Torah.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Vayavo'u kol hachachamim ha'osim et kol melechet hakodesh ish mimalachto asher hema osim. V'yamru el Moshe lemor marbim ha'am lehavi midei havodah lemalacha asher tziva Adonai la'asot ota v'yitzav Moshe v'ya'aviru kol b'machaneh lemor ish v'isha el ya'asu od malacha litrumat hakodesh vayichale ha'am mehavi v'hamalacha v'hayita doyam l'chol hamalacha la'asot ota v'hoter.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We turn our thoughts and prayers now to those who are in need of healing, and so we turn in our Siddur to page 371 in the middle of the page. If you're joining us through the blessing of technology and you're thinking of people who are in need of healing, whether it's a healing of the body or the mind or the spirit, feel free to add those names to the chat at this time, and those here in the sanctuary will have a chance to add names after I share with you the following people in our extended Adith Emmanuel family to whom we send our blessings of healing. Sarah Seidman, David Aguilar, Eliza Wargo, Judy Fowler, Estelle Gittler, Audrey Pomerantz, Libby Barsky, Orly Boudet, Cynthia Rosenberg, Jill Hollander, Carol Levine, Judy Winegren, Bob Epifano, Marion Portnoy, Malcolm Fletcher, Ellen Bertuglia, Goldie Schultz, Mindy Fisher, Kayla Chana Bat Adan Le Bumasalea, Marlene Gratchner, Sarah Gardner, Cindy DiRicio, Harry Greenberg, Nick Baud, Deb Nielsen, Moshe Ben Elizabeth Theodore, Rosalie Middleman, Jennifer Ness, George Goldstein, Harriet Eisner, Carla Teisch, Linda Drachman, Chaim Ben David, Eileen Davison, Craig Davison, Hugh Morton, Art Bond, Roberta Levine, Jordan Steinberg, Lisa Galda, Ed Crosby, Myra Kaplan, Jeff Schaefer, Louis Alahut, Carol Schaefer, Mary Mednitsky, Jocelyn Jackson, Jen Jones, Michael Infanti, Gary Garnick, Rick Ulrich, Ileana Cohn, and others whom we're thinking of at this time. If you're here in the sanctuary and want to mention a name aloud as you're able, you can rise and mention those names as my hand passes through the congregation. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim.
Ishe berach
As we're able, we rise as we lift and dress Torah.
We always hope the technology works, especially when we rehearsed it earlier in the day. So tonight I'm sharing with you a little bit about my recent trip to Israel. And let's see if this will work. Is the television on? Did it turn on before? There we go. Except it's not quite where we want to be. There. Okay, we'll try it this way. So it's a special Shabbat, because we're marking Rabbi Levine's 10th anniversary, and we know about his love of Israel. And so it almost seemed serendipitous. And also, this Shabbat, perhaps you were greeted on the way in, if you're a woman. Today is International Women's Day, March 8th. And I saw on social media a reminder that there are 19 women still held hostage. And these are their faces to remind us that they're not yet home, along with the other people who are not yet back to Israel. And I just want to mention before we dive in and share with you today about my experience in Israel, that this past week, while we were in Israel, it was the last day I don't even know if we heard it as a group together, the news about the horrific food calamity with the food in Gaza, and the deaths of the people there, and how it's at the cusp of famine in Gaza, and people were trampling one another and were shot out as they were just trying to eat, and that too is horrible. I want to share with you tonight, though, my personal experiences, having gone to Israel, having witnessed what I did and listened to some of the stories there. And in the spirit of International Women's Day, I thought that I would shape my words tonight, focusing especially on some of the women and their stories that we encountered. So the first one I want to share with you is Adi Kaplun Vital, of blessed memory. The Z and the quotation mark L, that means Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be for a blessing. She, in this picture, was featured, her parents, you can see her father down here, was featured in a video several years ago when she and her husband were one of the early settlers of a kibbutz by the name of Cholit, down along what's known as the Gaza envelope, down near Gaza. And they settled there because he wanted to be a farmer and build orchards. His name is Anani. And so her parents spoke to us, sharing a little bit about the story about her beforehand, and also sharing her experience on October 7th. So here's a picture of her parents, Jackie and Yaron, and I took a picture with them, and this is Adi's photo. So on October 7th, they were on the kibbutz, and Anani's custom on Saturday morning, it was Shabbat, it was Simchat Torah, was to go for a walk and take a walk with several of his friends. So he wasn't on the kibbutz at the time, and he survived, he lived. Adi was in their, in kibbutzim, they have these separate homes for families nowadays. It's not like always it once was with the children's house and all the children live there, but families live in their own units. And Adi was there with her two sons, Negev, who was 3, and Eshel, who was 6 months at the time. And when she heard the siren, she went into the safe room, as all people did. The safe rooms in buildings, especially around that area, were built to protect people from rockets, but not from grenades, especially when you have many, many grenades coming at you. And there's so many stories you might have already heard of, similar ones like this, where people are on their phone and there's a WhatsApp group on the kibbutz and they're telling people where Hamas is and they're coming. And sure enough, she knew they were coming, so she was texting Anani, her husband, can you remind me how we use the M16 or whatever the automatic rifle was. So she got her kids into the safe room with herself, and she heard people, and she was able to fire at one of them and kill one of them. But there were more than one. And we really don't know exactly what happened, because only her 3-year-old son was eyewitness to that. And they're not asking him and talking to him about that. But what we do know is that at the time, Yaron, her father, was visiting the kibbutz. And he was staying in the apartment that's like the guest house for visitors. He said, should I come and get you? She said, absolutely not. Abba, stay where you are. And he did. And what they later learned, and this for me is really troubling, is that Hamas had a map of the kibbutz. They knew exactly which homes belonged to whom, who was going to be there because they normally travel on the holidays, and who was not going to be there because they usually travel on the holidays, and who was going to be there in their homes. And they went from home to home according to the map. They never went to the guest house because that was the guest house. Nobody goes, they weren't expecting somebody to be visiting then. And for me, what was so troubling about that was the lack of trust. Like, there were Palestinian workers who were at this kibbutz who betrayed them. And that, for me, is really hard when I heard about that. The other part of the story is that Hamas came in and they took the boys, and they took a next door neighbor, Avital, and took the three of them into Gaza. And for some miraculous reason and way, Avital was able to escape, and she was carrying the baby, 6 months, and was trying to have Eshel, Negev, the 3-year-old, walk, and he had a bullet in his foot. He hobbled, and somehow he made it, and she just encouraged him. She says, if you walk, because she couldn't carry both of them, he says, I want an apple. She says, if you walk and we get back home, I'll give you 2 apples. And that was the encouragement, and he got there, and he's like, where's my apple? And they gave him 2 apples. But this was the luck and the miraculous nature of the saving of these other lives at the loss of Adi's. And so Jackie and Yaron are telling her story because they want to make sure that it gets known, and they're praying for the health, the mental health, and the physical health of their 2 grandsons. Later that day, we went to the Kotel, to the Western Wall. So I want to thank those of you who wrote your prayers, whatever those prayers were. And this is the women's side, and it was raining that day, almost like, the reflection of the tears of what this mission were reflected in the weather. And I had to wait my turn. You can see how crowded it is even on a rainy day, and go up to the wall and place the prayers, the notes in the Kotel. And I always have a ambivalence feeling about the Kotel, but that's for another time. I think about the Kotel sometimes, it's like, wow, this is it. This is the closest we get to our most holy of holies. And then I also had the experience of worshiping as a woman of the wall for many years. And so I feel sometimes conflicted as I go to the Kotel. But this time it was very special, being a messenger, putting the prayers there, and just being able to touch it. What was new to the Kotel is now there's this memorial. Went up pretty quickly. So if that was, the other picture was the front, just opposite behind the plaza is this memorial, and you can see the candles. In this middle section is etched all the names of those who were killed on October 7th, and it's in different sections, the civilians and IDF and first responders. And our tour guide helped us find Adi's name right here, Vital, Adi, and then the Zion and the Laman, Zichrona Livracha. And what we didn't know was further down, there's the name Kohen here, the names of people that we visited their home on a kibbutz later on, and we learned that because they have a relative who's a teacher at Kalman Brown Academy. So I thought I would share with you a little bit about another woman who is doing fabulous work. I don't know how she does it. Her name is Tali Levinson. This is Tali Levinson. And she's the CEO of the Israel Trauma Coalition. And think about if you're going to go to a place and it's called the Trauma Center. Think about if you're going to go to a place and it's called the Resilience Center. And just psychologically, the difference. So she was talking a lot about trauma and resilience and what the country is trying to do for people. And she said, she was talking a lot about the before and after needs of before October 7th. After October 7th, we heard a lot of those. We spoke to people. There were 11,000 therapists post-October 7, only 240 prior, part of this coalition. because they had to quickly train people so that they could serve the 20,000 plus clients post October 7th. So their philosophy is to focus on people's strength and to see how they can be resilient. So if you're resilient, you, one, know you're vulnerable, and two, know you're strong, and helping work with people to get through that trauma. And one of the things she did was she contacted a psychiatrist who had worked with people following 9/11. And that psychiatrist told her, yes, this is the trauma and getting through it now, but know that this is going to be a long timeline. So she was doing some amazing work. And then we went to visit this place called Youth Futures. And this woman right here, her name is Danor. And it's a federation program that we learned about, so which is why we were visiting, that works with children who are at risk. So they work with them very early on, and they have this amazing program where they have a mentor who works with the student in sort of a 360-degree way. So this is Danor, who was telling us about the program. This is Ora, who is one of the mentors, and she works with Chaim, and this is Chaim's mother. I don't know that we ever caught her first name. And what the mentor does is works with the child in class and throughout all their classes, and they see in Youth Futures that the parents are one of the beneficiaries, not just the student. And so Ora works with, it happens to be that Chaim's parents are divorced, so he already has that difficulty in his life. And then post October 7th, things were even more difficult. So these mentors have been working, exponentially hard, working with their students. And she would work with let's say he's in clubs afterwards. She would be working with, the teachers and the coaches and other people who would give him lessons. These mentors are really a very holistic approach. And during war times, it's been even harder, so they've been training more mentors and trying to take care of more people. One of the places we visited was the site of the Nova Festival. And as you can see here, this is a collage of all the faces. And one thing that's notable about that collage is how young the faces are of the people who are there. It was a very moving place, and the statistics from the Nova Festival are that 364 Israelis were murdered and another 40 were kidnapped. And so, what does Israel do? Like Rabbi Levine did? Planted trees. And on Tu B'Shvat this year, they planted 364 trees in memory of each person. I don't know if they also planted an additional 40. And that these trees will grow and provide shade for a very sunny area. And I think it's very symbolic, right? The tree will grow, life will come in the future. So the Nova Festival we know is down south near the Gaza border. Also very close to the Nova Festival, which is in a place called Ra'im, is Kibbutz Be'eri. Kibbutz Be'eri is one of the largest kibbutzim that was affected by on October 7th. And this was our tour guide, if you will. He's a resident of Kibbutz Be'eri. They've recently started bringing in small groups and taking us through essentially the homes to see what was done. And this is the home of the Weiss family. They have these posters hanging out. This is Judith Weiss, and this was Shimon Weiss. And this is the building that was there. As you can see some graffiti on the outside. And I know this is not focusing on women specifically, but I wanted to share with you about this young man in an egalitarian fashion. This is Jan Lampid. He was the shomer, the security person who was traveling with our team the whole time. He actually worked on Kibbutz Be'eri, not excuse me, I should say that differently. He was in the army, and he was in Gaza, but after his platoon's work in Gaza, they came to Kibbutz Be'eri, and his job with his troop was to go through the homes after Zakah came in. Zakah are those people who come in and they bring out the bodies. Because there was such explosion and destruction, his group went in and found the other body parts, if you will, like teeth and things like that. And he says, see that Gedud Shachar? That's my troop. He was in this building. And we were all asking him, like, how was that for you to come back to Kibbutz Be'eri? You were there, early October. And he said, I thought it would be very difficult. But he found closure. And he said, I'm just a guy who loves my country. And that was his attitude. And the other thing that's just expressive of who he is, there was one person on our trip who was in her 70s and needed a little help walking, and he adopted her like he was her grandson, and he made sure every place she went, she had, are you going up and down? Do you need a help? He was just like that. I'll also share with you one other story that Jan told us about when he was in Gaza, and that was, he talked about one time when there was a 4-year-old little girl who came close to them, and he's like, what is this 4-year-old girl doing? Because sometimes Hamas would use children as shields, and you never knew if there was somebody behind her or they were sending her, who knows, and she just was hungry and thirsty. And so what did his group do? They gave her water, they gave her food, and they were asking her, where are your parents? She didn't know. And they ended up taking her into Israel to a hospital to make sure that she was nourished back to health. He said he doesn't know what happened afterward, but that also gives you an idea of the attitude of some of the soldiers who are in Gaza, at least Jan, who is just an amazing neshama, amazing soul. This is inside the Weiss's house. You can see they just torched the place. This is a different house on the same, in the same part of the kibbutz where they, went home by home. And it's sort of like, guess what this is? You can tell what that is. That's can you tell what this is right here, all the way on the left? It's a plant. Maybe, I don't know if you can see so well. Oh, and then this is very hard to see if you can tell what that is. It was a bathtub. And this one is very difficult, but you look closely, it's the frame of a bed. And the coils here are just contorted. It reminded me of when I'd been in Poland and went to concentration camps and saw the contortion of the metal that from the burning in the ovens. You can see the contortion of the metal from the burning here of this mattress. This is the home of Vivian Silver. Some of you might have heard about Vivian Silver. I talked about her very early on after the war. She was a Canadian who made Aliyah, and she really believed in peace. She wanted to be close to Gaza and work with the Palestinians and create peace and help bring them to doctor's appointments and the like. And unfortunately, she was, as it says, was brutally murdered. She was, we didn't go into her home, but she did not make it. And it's so ironic that this woman who wanted to help, and that's why she lived there, this is how her life came to an end. Then we went to this home, which is the home of Ohad and Mila Cohen. And this is the family that was just, remember I showed you on the hotel where Adi Vital's name was just a few rows down. they're related to Mora Adi from Kellen Brown Academy. And so while we were there, we lit some yahrzeit candles and we said El Malei Rachamim and we said Mourner's Kaddish, just as a way of honoring their memory, Ohad and Mila, and all those who died on October 7th. And then we went to Tel Aviv. I told you the Nova Festival was in Re'im. There was a kibbutz called Kibbutz Re'im. It's no longer in Re'im, it's now in Tel Aviv. It's now located in these 2 high-rise buildings, and here in between is like their community house. It's like a 3 or 4 story building. And somehow they're making it work. They were one of the few communities that was able to stay together. There's this woman by the name of Aviv Hochbaum, and she and her brother are founders of Project 24. So inspirational. And I want to tell you, I'll give you an example of one of their projects. One of their projects, the goal of Project 24 isn't just to receive, but rather to have even those receiving give.
After the October 7th terror attack, when we sat about the needs of Kibbutz Re'im's young members, among the many requests stood humble the words of Shabbat. Something with Lego. Now, the Kibbutz kids have received many donations of toys, among them numerous Lego sets. So this made no sense. Even more so when we met her brother Tzuf, a 19-year-old teenager. Thing is, Tzuf has autism. After the terror attack, Tzuf's years-long daily routine of Lego building, which provided him comfort and stability, was disrupted. For people with autism, any routine break is very difficult. For Tzuf, torn apart from his home and Lego collection, it was, and still is, devastating. Under Project 24, we prompted collaboration with Jared Greenman, owner of Funky Monkey, a local New York toy store. As we are not about donations, we set out to have Tzuf himself choose a new Lego set directly from the store via Zoom.
Is this one something that would be interesting to you?
Very, very much. It's my dream to have it.
Which was heartwarming and generous on behalf of Jared,
Wish you happy Hanukkah.
who immediately suggested,
We have some other gifts to give to the children on the kibbutz.
but we wanted to extend the involvement even further by having the Scarsdale Jewish community engaged. How? Simply by reaching out, telling them about Jared's actions and inviting them to take part. And they did. Parents came with their young kids, purchased a gift, wrapped it, and added a personal Hanukkah greeting card. Each family to a different child. Yet we weren't done. These Hanukkah gifts were sent on behalf of Tzuf, which empowered him when he got to deliver them to the kibbutz kids. To wrap it up, by this involvement, we helped support Tzuf and his family, while giving meaning to Jared of Funky Monkey's generosity, alongside local publicity. We made the 40 children of Kibbutz Re'im happy, empowered the people of Scarsdale's Jewish community that work together, and brought joy and some comfort to one Eva, who will be collecting Lego pieces from the floor for the coming month.
So that's a win-win-win kind of attitude, not just to be receivers, but to make sure that the people who are receiving are also doing something. And so Project 24 is continually inventing projects by doing a listening campaign, asking 2 questions: what do you need and what's your superpower? And so people are saying what they need and what they can do, and there's a man who already came and took a group of middle school age boys to play basketball in Florida. Got them out of Israel. He coaches basketball, the kids want to play basketball, and they had a tournament with other kids in Florida. And somebody asked, well, who won the tournament? Which team? And the answer is all the children, right? They all benefited. On the left is a picture of Adi Dreimer, and she is holding in her hand a piece of artwork that she made. It's called Lifeline, and what it is she took from the WhatsApp, group WhatsApp, on October 7th, all the messages, and she created this spiral design, which is now being sold. And so it's her art and her expression. As you can see here, this is Suf's mom, and these two people here, her name is also Amy, and this is her mom, Elise, and Elise's husband, Boo, or Ron, is one of the other founders of this Project 24 from Kibbutz Be'eri, and he's actually speaking tomorrow at Temple Beth Shalom at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to go over there and hear the story some more, and we can, as a congregation, look and see what project might speak to us. Maybe we have some superpowers that match their needs. Another group of people that I feel has not gotten the publicity. We hear about hostages, we hear about the hostage families, we hear about the families where somebody's been murdered from that day, but we hear less about the evacuees. And so here's a picture of a group of mostly women who are sitting in the lobby of a hotel, Hotel Ibis in Jerusalem. This is now their living room. They are from Kiryat Shmona. Over 200,000 individuals have been evacuated from both the north and south. Many families have been split up, unlike Kibbutz Be'eri, which miraculously found their kibbutz, which is now vertical. And a lot of these women we spoke to said how sad they were. They're not with family. The holidays are coming up, Purim, Pesach, and they don't know if they can even be with them. And we learned from the people who were working here. This is Aliza. This, I believe, is either Abby or Batsheva, and they work with the JDC, the Joint Distribution Committee. Tell how they provide social services. So you're a senior and you're uprooted from your house so that you can have food and shelter. That's great. How do you get to your next doctor's appointment? How do you fulfill your prescription? You took 2 bags of your suitcases. How do you wash your clothes? And so there's been social services introduced to these people who are living in hotels, these seniors who are, they have these tiny rooms and this is their living room. So there was somebody who, was coming in and out because that was his living room and he wanted to sit down. This is a picture of Neely, and when I looked at her, I saw somebody, this is somebody about my age, and she is just stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yes, she has her life. Yes, she's here, but in this hotel, but she's not with her family. And some of these women, all they want to do is cook a meal, right? And they can't even do that living in the hotel. I've circled Eliza, and you can see she's holding a phone, because what she does is called phototherapy. She takes photographs and uses them as people can pick out and say, oh, this photo reminds me of whatever and speaks to me at this moment. And she also has them take their phones and take photos and use that as a way of art and expressing, and then she takes their photos and then she prints it. This bookcase right here in the back, someone took a picture of that because they said it reminded them of smiles, like just, how some people make a smile